A lot of people just do measurements and they put things around it and they know they have gaps. Well, I'll tell you, if you put together a critical asset protection program, that is because that is the most important thing to your entity, your company, your business, your agency. So fix it, prioritize it, make sure you're remediating it. Don't leave it out there for 2, 3, 4 years.
This is a Security Weekly production. Security Weekly is a resource of Cyber Risk Alliance.
The Cybersecurity Collaborative, in conjunction with Cyber Reason, is proud to present CISO Stories. Each week, CISO Stories takes a deep dive on security leadership. The Cybersecurity Collaborative is a unique membership community enabling cybersecurity leaders to work together in a trusted environment. To learn more, visit securityweekly.com/CSC. I am your host, Todd Fitzgerald, and this week we welcome Roland Cloutier, Chief Security Officer of ByteDance and TikTok.
Well, Todd, first, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I kind of made it a roundabout way getting into, cyber and business operations protection. I started in the military, in aerospace defense in the Air Force, and I was on a law enforcement and anti-terrorism track. When I left the military and the Department of Defense, I started in federal law enforcement doing healthcare and fraud crimes. And quickly, I realized the impact on compute technologies and cyber in general on all of these criminal cases. Every case we were doing seemed to have some aspect of cyber embedded in it. So I actually went back to school. About 10 years into my adult career, if you will, and just fell in love with the technology in computer science. And I guess the rest is history from there.
Wow, that's pretty fascinating, and I can see where there really would be this intersection, and you were really onto that pretty early on.
Yeah, I would say it was late 90s. I think 98, I graduated from BU in computer science. And, what's funny, Todd, is that I didn't even know how hot the career field was. I just really wanted to do this. And I remember I graduated on a Thursday, and on Sunday, I got the Boston Globe. And then I sent out 4 resumes, faxed 4 resumes on Sunday night. And by Monday, all 4 places had called me back. And by Wednesday, I actually had interviewed with them all and had made an agreement to leave the government, doubling my pay overnight. It was a whirlwind back then because there was such a gap.
Yeah, and the government has great training for that, especially the military. It seems like it's really good foundational security training for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think what I have benefited so much throughout my career are the fundamentals. And whether you're protecting an airbase, an asset, a person, a technology infrastructure, there are certain things that create that formula, if you will, of defensive operations and response. And so when you learn those in a very specific, dedicated way that the military and government trains you, and you couple on top of that years of training in law enforcement and understanding people and investigative processes, it really forms an incredible way to look at any job in this sector. And I think that's really has helped me and taken my career forward by being able to take a step back, think about the principles of either of what we do for a living or leadership or what have you, and applying those, being able to make very good, sound judgments quickly. And, in our career field, quickly is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you find any challenges between the different communication styles between law enforcement and the IT space?
Well, so absolutely, I think there's a difference between the way that folks in law enforcement and public safety talk and operate compared to people in the technology fields. They think differently. It's a different job and it's a different mission and end result that they're going after. But I think it's transferable, Todd. I think there's, I've just met so many incredible practitioners that come from the military or law enforcement, or let's just say the public service sector, that through a transition and through a wantingness to learn into this commercial sector have just made incredible jumps, have learned and embraced the new partnership with the people they work with, and do a great job explaining the complications and the technologies around what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and I think that's really nice when we can bring all these disciplines together. We all learn from each other that way.
Yeah, absolutely great. And by the way, we need each other. I mean, if you think about some of the work that we as practitioners do in protecting business operations, more and more, there are critical issues around intellectual property theft, intrusion. You're working hand in hand with often state, federal, and international law enforcement investigating these cases, how you collect and preserve evidence, to the way that you document controls and provide attestations. Even many of our men and women in our career field work in centers like the NCFTA, or National Cyber Forensics Training Alliance, which is a shared watch floor, if you will, for e-fraud and criminal cyber behavior. And our people are sitting side by side working these issues, because government has come to realize they need to use practitioners in the commercial world to help them police and affect things that happen to commercial entities. And commercial entities has learned that the government isn't out to get them. The government is out to help them, but they need the help and expertise.
Right. Nice to see that cooperative arrangement. I think that's really important. So you wrote an excellent piece. I actually just love it, called Critical Cyber Asset Protection Planning, Learning Concepts and Operational Imperatives for Protecting What Needs to be Protected. So would you like to walk us through that article?
Sure. I think we could start with a high level of view of this concept of business operations protection. I think, many times a lot of us come at our jobs because we are in a technical job, a technical career field, from a very technical perspective. But as I teach and mentor, young folks coming into our career field, I want them to start from a very broad thinking perspective of what are we actually doing? And we're protecting a company. We're protecting an entity. It's a business, that is either delivering a product or a service, or if you're in an agency, a mission scope. But you're delivering, that entity is delivering something, and you're looking at their broad service chain, if you will. What is it that they're developing to the time that they deliver a product, to the time they make money on a product, and it's really important to understand that you can't protect that. You cannot do your job unless you understand that it is truly mastering their business will make you give you an effective capability to protect the organization. You have to understand those things and what are the priorities. We're always talking about, we can't do everything. We have to focus on the risks. We have to focus on we have to prioritize. Well, how do you prioritize if you don't understand the business? So I think one of the base concepts I'm trying to get across is know your business and be a part of your business, be able to effectively make great decisions.
I think that's great advice, because we exist to protect the business, right? I mean, we're not just there because they love to have security people in the organization. We're there because we're trying to protect their revenue streams.
Exactly, and in that, as a leader in the business, helping them make good business decisions, understanding what is truly risky for an organization, and then executing accurately, and quickly to be able to, really affect our capabilities into the business itself and be part of the business is the next goal. So as our world changes so much, and whether it's threat actors or it's new impacts of vulnerabilities against the technologies our businesses use, or just you think of it in the time of COVID from a business resiliency standpoint. How do you effectively manage crisis management any one given time? All those things happen immediately, without warning, and with very little horizon time to work with. So all of those principles of understanding the business, understanding risk, understanding execution strategies, all come into play in our world every day.
The article this podcast is based upon can be viewed in the best-selling cybersecurity leadership book, CISO Compass, Navigating Cybersecurity Leadership Challenges with Insights from Pioneers, available at Amazon.com and other booksellers. So you talked about 5 critical elements to your CAPP life cycle. Could you talk about some of those to help make this vision a reality?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We have this term. We always talk about crown jewels. Well, if you're going to protect crown jewels in the government, they've always called that critical asset protection planning, and it's just a formalized way to look at those quote unquote crown jewels and make sure that you're doing in a well-rounded life cycle protection approach against it. So in those top 5 things, we talk about identifying what it is, right? So a protection program around critical assets, or CAPPs, if you will, requires that you have to be able to measure what it is. And whether you're using enterprise risk management, using an open risk management formula, making sure that you have a partnership with those people that provide that function or your own function, and you have a very specific and articulable way to measure risk is done. You have to be able to do that. If you can't do that, you can't do CAPP protection. The second is, well, what is an asset? And at the end of the day, that's up to you to define. Is it an entire data center? Is it one application? Is it just information in an information store? You're going to have to decide what it is and be very clear about it, because the more clear you are, the easier it is to articulate how to defend it and to explain it to others. Mm-hmm. I think the next point is, get some standards behind it. I always say standards matter. So whatever standard you're using, and I don't care if you're an ISAC, ISO, CSF, how you protect, defend, detect, respond, recover against an asset is important. So make sure create that checklist of how you're doing those things, and document the verification that you have those controls and those processes in place. So now you've got the standards, you've made an evaluation against it. Well, you got some gaps, so fix it. A lot of people just do measurements and they put things around it and they know they have gaps. Well, I'll tell you, if you put together a critical asset protection program, that is because that is the most important thing to your entity, your company, your business, your agency. So fix it, prioritize it, make sure you're remediating it. Don't leave it out there for 2, 3, 4 years. Drive the urgency within your company, get executive sponsors, whatever you have to do, but just make sure you're fixing it.
And I like how you said that there's some of those things that you can fix now with the current processes you have in place, and some things that's going to drive a business case where you're going to have to get additional funding. But instead of just leaving that, you're taking a proactive action to actually do something about that.
Yeah, I mean, some of it depends what you like to do. Like I like to be in the action and be fixing and finding bad people and things of that nature. So sometimes business cases we naturally avoid because we're doers, right? If you're in this career field, it's because you're mission oriented. This is what you like to do. And to your point, Todd, if we don't, then we're not getting our job done. So getting these business cases done, like you said, are so important. The last area we often forget, and it's, well, we're not big enough, or we're too big, or we already have a monitoring program. Let me tell you, if you don't have a monitoring program set up for CAPP, that's threat detection and response capabilities around those assets, then you're not doing CAPP. And all that means is I'm going to have more eyes on it. It's going to have a special learning function. People are looking at it. It gets escalated faster, and we have response requirements. And it's different than everything else. And that's really monitoring it. And I don't care, by the way, if you have your internal SOC or critical incident response center or ROC, or, you outsource to an MSS. It doesn't matter. The fact that somebody is monitoring it, and I'm not talking like, once every 3 weeks, someone goes through the logs. I'm talking about active monitoring and response. That really makes your CAPP life cycle. And from there, you make it your own and develop it. But those are really the top 5 things, Todd, that I think about when pushing that forward.
Well, and I like that, how you're really putting the emphasis and the priority on those crown jewels, those things that are really important to your organization, and making sure that you have all the data mapping and that you're resolving those issues. And the other thing I really like is that you said you have to do this every time, because if you don't, that's going to be the point where your exposure is.
It has to be muscle memory. Like when people hear CAPP, they have to jump off their seat. They have to think, oh no, that's a CAPP asset. And so it truly has to be critical. And from the way that we aggressively pursue remediation, to the way that we do detailed risk and vulnerability analysis of those assets, to the way that we put monitoring around them, it is probably one of the most impactful services that you can deliver from my perspective. It is, when your CEO or your board says, how do we know about that most critical component of our business? You tell them, and you can be assured, and you can swear an oath that, you have done everything, reasonably possible to effectively protect that asset in the most critical way.
Did you find it? I noticed you also talked about automation. Did you find that you ended up automating a lot of those activities, or were there some that you just couldn't fully automate?
I think you automate everything. I think you start these days on a premise of, what do I need not to touch and can be done so automatically, so I can use my human resources in the best way possible for their imagination, their intelligence, their analytical skills, rather than automation. So I always look at automation. I think the ability to do automated run books, the automated triage, to data collection around incidents, to think about how fast you can do assessments and how ongoing. Technology has now given us the ability to do daily, sometimes hourly, priority control checks on our infrastructure without anyone having to do anything, and facilitating those into a queue if there's a differential that we need to go look at. So yeah, I think automation has to be a huge part of every program.
Well, this has really been great, Roland, and I really appreciate the contribution to CISO Compass, and also you're serving on the executive committee for the Cybersecurity Collaborative. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us that we should be aware of in approaching this?
Yeah, this is your opportunity. I think a lot of people see this as an action item. How do I go do this, build a program? But this is an invitation for you to have an incredible dialogue with your business, for you to be able to go in and say, hey, I understand your business, but I want to understand more, and I want to protect you more specifically. And then show them the capabilities that you and your team have built in order to be a part of their business. It's an incredible alignment capability, and it shows them that you're interested in not just what you do, but what they do in the success of the business itself. So use this as your business alignment tool.
I mean, this is excellent because we always talk about being an enabler of the business, and this is really a nice stepwise way to do that.
I think so. And I've had incredible success with the teams I've been fortunate enough to work with on implementing these type of solutions.
Well, thanks a lot, Roland. It's really been a pleasure today talking with you, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, Todd, always a pleasure talking with you, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Cybereason is the champion for today's defenders, providing an endpoint security platform to prevent, detect, and respond to malicious operations on computers, mobile devices, servers, and the cloud. Cybereason. End cyber attacks from endpoints to the enterprise to everywhere. Learn more at cybereason.com/CISO stories.